Yeah, let's start this again with the background noises. I've silenced it now. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back again for another session on men empowerment. And we always look forward to it because I'm here, Jan Roberts, I'm here together with Professor Mauri Rossini. And he is a man empowerment, man circle kind of guy who does this amazingly well. So it's a pleasure for me to talk with him and have this discussion. And I hope you will actually connect with us and carry on this conversation in the comments box below afterwards. Professor, what are we going to talk into today?
Dear John, first of all, good to see you, and good to see you, each one of you. Today, we're going to talk about a misconception about Stoicism. There's been talking a lot about Stoics and Stoicism, with the misconception that in order to be a Stoic man, you need to totally deprive any inner dialogue from the neck below. Consequently, you have to disconnect from your emotions, do not process them, and just push further. But this misconception has been generating generational traumas, generational pain, that even the youngsters now, they are really suffering about it. So today, in this short time, straight to the point, we're going to deconstruct what really does it mean to be a Stoic man.
Yes, and I like that because you in your newsletter, which people should always follow as well, as you talk into it all the time, you actually mention this and the emotional trauma that is involved with trying to be that strong man all the time. It's not just the physical and the mental, but also the emotional side. So can you talk a little bit more into that, because it's very interesting?
Well, the idea that we go back to the initial point of the meaning of this conversation that we have, that the conditioning plays such a strong role. And the thing is, men, they never stop a second, they pause and try to discover, to be more self-aware in order to understand why they behave in a certain way. If a man does any kind of inner work of self-introspection, they will realize that there is so much conditioning that teaches men to totally avoid any form of inner dialogue. Consequently, a man feels very much empowered and feels that he is fulfilling the stereotype of the hero while he does not express emotions, or he just suffers in silence. But that suffering, most of the time, transforms into disease, transforms into addiction, transforms into depression. And a man is really a victim of a system that has never been teaching him that there is nothing more stoic or masculine to actually being able to deal with your emotion. And I want to add, before giving you the word, Marcus Aurelius, which, by the way, was one of my ancestors, I suggest you to read his biography. I suggest you to read one of these amazing books, Meditations. And for Marcus Aurelius, a man with an incredible power, 10 times more over any Xi Jinping or Donald Trump. This guy was really hyper powerful. But he always said, a grounded man is the man that can be authoritarian. He is a leader without the need to be abusive. So we need to break down that you don't need to be abusive or shouting in order to be a leader. You can be a grounded leader, very in tune with your emotions, and consequently, we can really embrace the real concept of Stoicism.
Oh, I love that. And by the way, Aurelius being one of your forefathers is actually amazing. You learn something new every day. But and you're talking into leadership as well, because men naturally feel they need to lead, whether it's their family or whatever they do, their businesses, and it always adds pressure. But as you said, it's not about shouting the loudest. It's about being the most consistent. But that can only happen. I mean, it's easy to say, of course. We can talk about leadership, and as I say, I work in that space. But it is easy to say, you need to be this and this kind of leader. And leadership is all about building relationships. But I think the more we talk about this, it becomes more apparent that we start to need to build relationships with ourselves first. We need to learn to love ourselves. We need to learn to accept ourselves for who we are, regardless what people around us say. Because it is always, and it's still a wonderful saying, but what happens around you and what happens to you is not half as important as what happens within you. And that is where we are at the moment with, you talk about it all the time in a variety of areas, and there's a lot to be talked about yet. And I hope the public actually start to join us and ask us what we should address next, because we will listen to you, because you are the most important to us. But it is this whole emotional tension that we live under all the time. And as you said, it causes stress. It gets us to do all kinds of things we shouldn't be doing, but we look for an outside answer to the inside traumas that we have. And you actually, you teach us all the time, but to people to learn to accept themselves and know that we can live the way we should be living, not because of the picture that's from outside, but the way we feel calm and collective and have an emotional balance. So we don't need to live in fear that if we cry or if we don't seem to fit the picture of that Stoic man, it's okay. It's always okay, but we need to start believing that, and for that to happen, we need to start talking more about it. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah. The thoughts are that the only way to really, for a man to realize that the way of suppressing any form of inner dialogue, it really comes from himself, or it comes maybe from the words of the mother, the father, the religion, the household, the environment it was grown. Because I can guarantee you, if you stop a second, whoever man is listening that, he has a kind of a character of Stoic's approach to life, just pause a second. And when you feel the pain and the suffering, is that your voice that says just keep pushing, or maybe it comes from somebody else and it's something that you bought as yours? And I can guarantee you, if you really pause and you pay attention, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, that comes from the education you received. So is that something that belongs to you, or you adopted? So if you adopted it and you know within that you are a man, and we all know we are very good on faking it, on do not show others because we are afraid to be judged as weak. But have you ever considered that probably you will gain a way more authority, or people will love you more because they see you as a human? Because you can suffer in silence, behind the scenes, the curtains, you can always pretend that everything is fine, but you know that it's not fine. And what are you going to do? You're going to spend all your life pretending to be okay while you are not. There is courage, much more courage in seeking for help or being open than actually hiding it and pretending to be okay.
Yeah, and again, so many wise words in there, and we always try to be okay for the outside world, and then we forget to be okay inside. And as we've talked about before, more than 4 in 5 people that commit suicide are men. Now, we look at gender-based violence and all those kind of things. And I mean, there's never any excuse for any of it. And gender-based violence, by the way, goes both ways, not just one way. But we believe that if we can start talking about this kind of subjects, so we don't need to be those Stoic men, that picture that we all strive to, because that's how we should be. Like models have to be thin and all kinds of ideas that people have. Men have the same. Men are models of society, models of reality. But how often do we live that reality if we're trying to be that Stoic man? Grown men don't cry. We've talked about that already. So I think we need to really have more serious but open and honest discussions, and that's why we are here. We want to start the encouragement of those discussions. But it needs to start somewhere. So the reason Professor Mauri and I have these conversations is because we want to connect with you. We want you to connect with yourself. We want you to connect with other men in your circles, and become part of men's circles, so we can have honest and open conversation. Because when we sit around with men and can open these kind of things, the conversation is very different than when women to get together, or when men and women to get together. But we need to start somewhere. Let's rip that picture of a Stoic man off the wall. Let's put a picture of a real man. And if that real man cries, if that real man actually admits And as you said as well, we need to look for help, and not in a bottle or in tablets. We need to look for help with each other. We need to look for help in the mirror. But we need to, for that to happen, we need to start those conversations. So, I'm sure we will talk a lot more about it, but I already want to say, because we always want to keep it short, we just want to awaken you to the fact that we need to have those conversations. We are all real men, but how real are we when we really look in the mirror? So I think, for me, if you will help us by adding the conversation in the comments box, by asking us questions, by asking yourselves questions, and share your experiences with us and others. And then on top of that, if you also will ask us about certain subjects in this man empowerment and the whole man thing that we are talking into. If you have a subject that you would like us to discuss, put it in the comments box as well, because you are important to us and you all matter. So for me already, thank you very much for being here with us again. Professor Mauri, your last words.
You said it all. I suggest, if one of the audience, you don't feel to leave a comment publicly, you can reach directly on LinkedIn, Jen or myself. So, it's a private things. And then from there, we can have a conversation and we can just, work on the topic. So don't be shy. Take the first step. Be a real man, as they used to say, be a man.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.